From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Well, we're at it again, aren't we? It's that time of the morning again. I can't believe I'm out of bed this early. It is the North East Footy Brekky. The interloper is me. That's Dave. The boys that matter are, of course, winging our way to sunny Australia. When is it never sunny in Australia? And also on Tyneside, where I'd be very surprised if it's sunny at the moment. Rye and Steve, good morning, chaps. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing?
Good morning,
good,
everybody. Yeah. Good morning, Steve. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, and you, mate. And I'm basking in the glory of Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough all being top of the league today, lads. And you know what do you know what it is? I bet you haven't heard the good news in Australia yet. The hygiene ratings are out for all the football stadiums. And Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough all got 5 out of 5, lads.
Nice.
Hey, there we go. Top of the league.
You can't beat a clean toilet.
It's just the shit on the pitch sometimes, unfortunately.
Hey! Careful. You Aussies are all the same. You Aussies are all the same. And there are a selection of other words that could have been used instead of that. We've also got to say hi to our guest Sunderland fan. Macca joins us. Macca, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all? I hope you all are well.
Good to hear from you, Macca. How are you doing, mate? Good
Yeah,
weekend for you.
Bad.
Good weekend for you at the weekend. We were all doom and gloom yesterday, but Sunderland flying the flag.
Yeah, Sunderland got a brilliant point at Coventry. I think if he'd offered me a point before the game even started, I would have taken that definitely. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
A point before Coventry. If you'd offered me as a Boro fan a point at any stage so far this season, I'd have snapped your hands off.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, but that's Boro for you, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're going to come down. We're going to come down and take Ross Stewart anyway, so don't worry about it.
No, he's not going to go to Boro.
Are you sure? Are you certain?
I think if he's going to leave Sunderland, I think he'll go to Southampton or somewhere far away. Far away. In another universe. It's not like the start of a Star Wars episode.
But I
hope he doesn't. Obviously, hope he doesn't leave Sunderland because as we all know, we're desperate for a striker, and I know we'll probably touch on it. But it's getting desperate.
Well, to be fair though, you've had a bit of a shot in the arm in the last 24 hours because O'Nien signed a three-year +1 deal, hasn't he? So good to have him. Good to have him anchored in at the Stadium of Light.
Absolutely, and it's worth saying that obviously if you need your dog saving, then Luke O'Nien's the man to save dogs as well. He's brilliant. He is Mr. Sunderland. He's just amazing.
Kiss of life on a dog. I mean, what a story that was. But there you go. So Steve Rye, come on, it's your show, fellas. Where are you taking us?
I was going to say on the Newcastle front, there's some positives and there's some negatives. I mean, the breaking news yesterday was about Elliot Anderson, who has decided to play for Scotland. Obviously, from his point of view, he's decided he's got more chance of representing Scotland at the international level. And of course, John Carver, former coach under Sir Bobby Robson and former manager at St James's Park,
great lad
as well.
JC's a great lad, yeah.
He's clearly had a little bit of persuasion there. Steve Clarke, of course, is the manager of Scotland and also has a Newcastle connection. So Elliot Anderson has decided to go there. And the breaking news last night, obviously, we don't want to get too deeply into it because of legal reasons. But club captain, of course, Jamal Lascelles, unfortunately involved in an unsavoury incident. By the looks of it, nothing that he could really do about it. But the Daily Mail running the story yesterday. Newcastle, of course, are aware of the incident, have seen the video, and they say that the matter's going to be dealt with internally. But that probably is the reason that the rumours were starting to come out about a Besiktas link for Lascelles, and obviously the other talking point that potentially if we do lose our club captain and centre half, in a deal before the transfer window closes, potentially Harry McGuire coming the other way from Manchester United to Newcastle, maybe on a loan deal. So interesting day. It's never a dull moment in North East football, and never a dull moment at St James's Park.
Can I just mention on the Elliot Anderson thing? Obviously, you probably aren't aware, but I'm a Scotland fan as well. So I think that the fact that Elliot Anderson has decided to play for Scotland is probably really good, because I think he played for England under 19s, and then he obviously decided to. I think he got one cap for an under 21s, and then he decided he didn't want any more caps, and then obviously he came across to join Steve Clarke, and that just shows you where Scotland are at the moment. Obviously, they're top of their qualifying group at the moment, and I just think that just shows you what they've got when you've got people that want to, try and play for Scotland, and that's testament to Steve Clarke and the way he's handled everything at the moment.
Can we have our pitch back?
Yeah, he is. Macca, he's called the Geordie Maradona, and what'll be great for me as the show progresses is you getting a Scotland shirt with Elliot Anderson on the back. That'll do me.
I tell you what, it's funny you should say that, but did you know that Diego Maradona had the option and wanted to sign for Sunderland when he was a 17-year-old?
No way.
Yeah, I had no idea until Ian Murter last week was interviewing Rob, forgotten his name, the historian at Sunderland.
Rob Mason.
That's him, Rob Mason. Thanks, mate. And one of the stories they were talking about, he's just releasing a book called What Ifs. And the what ifs are things that were set up to happen but didn't go through at the end, including Bobby Robson. So Bobby Robson shook hands on a deal to manage Sunderland and then changed his mind last minute, which I'm sure Steve would say he finally saw some sense. But one of the stories was Diego Maradona threatened to retire from football at the age of 17 if his club wouldn't allow him to join Sunderland like it agreed. Wow. And it never happened. Yeah. Can you imagine, Macca?
Wow.
If
that would have been interesting, yeah.
If the white powder man himself would have come to it wouldn't have been Stadium of Light then, would it? It would have been Roker Park.
Yeah, it would have been Roker then. Yeah, that would have been really interesting. And obviously, it's worth pointing out. I imagine you've seen the news over the weekend that Lee Johnson lost his job, ex-Sunderland manager.
Hibbinen. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a big Hibs fan, and he lost his job because he had to go because we played 3 in the league and we're bottom of the league, and lost heavily to Aston Villa in Europe. So he had to go. If I had obviously, for those that don't know, I'm totally blind, but if I had a guide dog, I wouldn't trust him with that, because he just can't organise anything, and he definitely can't keep the lead. So he had to go.
You should be on the radio with humour like that, mate.
His presser was interesting. His last presser at Hibs that was really interesting, where he walked out on the reporter. You could see that it was done, and I don't think he left the club with much option after that. Once he just walked out on the reporter and said, enough's enough. So
hang on,
exactly. There you go.
Voice from below.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, fellas. We'll take a break. We'll play a bit of music for those who are driving their cars to work and they want something to tap their feet to, not too heavily if it's the accelerator pedal. And then we'll be back and we will pick up where we expect to be on the North East Footy Breakfast right after this. We do like a bit of a weekend, Monday to Friday. That's Take My Breath. The boys are with us. It is the North East Footy Breakfast. We've got Rye in. I'm assuming it is sunny in Australia, is it?
It is a beautiful day here, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, that's all we need to know. We've got Steve Wraith with us on Tyneside. We've also got Macca with us in County Durham, who's a Sunderland fan. He's our guest Sunderland presenter on the North East Footy Breakfast. Fellas, we've got some action tonight. Rye, kick off with you. It is cup action.
It is
League Cup, Boro.
It is the dream replay, as you would say, with Middlesbrough taking on Bolton in the Carabao Cup again tonight, hoping for a turn of fortune, if you will, with the Boro. So we've had a good little cup run already, and we're hoping that we can continue that and find some form to take back into the championship in the cup run and have a good win over Bolton. Obviously, the last team in the northeast to win a cup, have a trophy in their cabinet, is the Boro. Happy to remind you both of that. So.
Now I know what's going to happen here. I know exactly what's going to happen here. Steve's fallen asleep and Macca's going to jump in because Macca was ripping me yesterday when I was talking to him after the show, saying the guys have got it wrong. Go on, Macca, take the lead.
Go on then.
First of all, to Rye, you've had a good cup run. You've played one match. And secondly,
both we have.
Sunderland we're going to be playing one more than Sunderland this season.
Yeah, but Sunderland were the last team to win a trophy. We won the Papa John's Trophy in 2021.
The what?
Hold on a minute, lads.
Now I know Steve's going to go down the Secker Trophy sort of line.
No, we've just won the Cellar Cup, lads.
Yeah,
we've just won the Cellar Cup.
Okay. Yours was pre-season. Ours was during the season.
Yeah, I know, but fair enough. We didn't have an open bus tour, but we did it, lads, and it's just as important as the Papa John's trophy.
Both of those trophies should be in the cellar. Never mind, the cellar cup.
We also won the Japan Cup in 1982.
Now you're going too far back for me now, mate.
Sorry.
I'm still young.
I'm pretty sure the Boro ordered Papa John's in the pre-season as well. So
in the Toto Cup, lads.
In the Toto, yeah. Are we going to go all the way back to the Texaco Cup? The Boro won the Texaco Cup without scoring a goal in the final.
We're just pulling out whatever we got now.
73. Yeah, well, we might as well give 73 a mention as well.
That's a long time ago, though, Macca. That's a long.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I might be an old fart, but and yes, I do remember it, and I remember Ian Porterfield scoring, and I do remember Jim Montgomery's save, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But it's a long time ago, mate. That's in the annals of history. Now we've locked that one away in the top cupboard, mate.
Yeah, no. Well, we're concentrating on promotion anyway, so.
Yeah, and we can't go. Look, we can't go too far because we're talking the Carrier Bag Cup tonight, and I'm sure Steve will be instantly saying, "Yeah, we're looking forward to the Champions League draw," and that's the end of the conversation.
It is. It's a big week for cup draws, isn't it? I mean, obviously the Carabao Cup games get played. Newcastle's opponents will be levelled. It'd be great to get a derby. It'd be great. Boro gets through and Newcastle end up with Boro, especially for this show. We'll have some banter about that. Ooh, yeah. And then of course the Champions League draw, which is this Friday for us, which will probably see us end up in the group of death. And then of course following on from that, we've got the end of the transfer window, the transfer deadline closing, which maybe sees us all involved and some excitement. Ooh, yeah. So it is a busy week football wise.
It is a big week.
Really big. Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think it's awesome that we can, if we do, obviously Middlesbrough do get the win over tonight on Bolton, 7:45. That there is a juicy tie lined up with Newcastle by the looks of it. So if we can get through and have a derby day, that'd be amazing. But obviously Middlesbrough coming off the back of the 4-2 defeat at West Brom. And Bolton drew 1-1 with Burton Albion in the League One as well on the same afternoon. So both looking for a turn of fortunes, and obviously Bolton hosting Middlesbrough. But yeah, a good little cup run for the Boro fans wouldn't go astray at the moment with the pain and misfortune of everything that's happening in the Championship and the lack of transfers and the lack of rumours and everything like that. We could do with a cup run here down at the Boro.
And Middlesbrough sent out their away allocation for Bolton as well, which I know it's only a couple of hours down the road, but it's quite good to be fair.
We do. I mean, to be fair, we do travel in numbers. I think all three clubs in the North East travel in numbers. And you always see on these football banter sort of social media pages regular photographs of Newcastle, Sunderland and Boro fans packed into away ends and sellouts and all that sort of stuff. So it's no surprise. Mind you, it is the Carrier Bag Cup. I thought you'd think a lot of people would say, I'll give that one a miss. I'll watch that one on TV, or I'll pick up a dodgy stream or whatever they do these days. So it is good to see the Boro selling out.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think if the league was won on fans, attending away matches, like Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Newcastle would be top three every single year. Because Sunderland travelling good, like you say, good numbers as well. And I was down the top three with it.
I think Macca, that probably I think that probably takes us down this little rabbit hole of tickets and digital ticketing, lads. Well, I mean, I know for a fact that it's had major effects at Newcastle again at the weekend. People again advised to get to the ground early at St James's Park for the match against Liverpool. People did get there in good time. Still, outside the East Stand in particular. Huge queues, mass congestion, and eventually people getting in about 10 minutes after the game kicked off and missing part of the game. And also again in the Milburn Stand, people being forced to queue on stairs, which I would imagine is a health and safety issue. But I'm getting lots of text messages, emails from people saying this really needs to be sorted out by the club. And also we had at Manchester City the week prior to that, basically random ticket checks to make sure that the people who were turning up on away tickets were exactly who they said they were. So I feel a bit like fans are now being persecuted. I feel as if we're being gentrified. I feel as if they're trying to do something which seems a little bit sinister. They seem to be trying to change the demographic of the supporter that's going to away games, and they seem to be creating this Big Brother feel at home with what they're trying to do. And there must be a reason for it, because it's not just Newcastle, but they're doing it at Sunderland as well, Macca.
Yeah, and I feel fans are being priced out of the game as well, like £37 for a ticket for Coventry on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a bit rough. Yeah.
That's how can they get away with charging that much? I think in the Premier League, is there a cap on the ticket prices, Steve, at like £30, I think. But obviously,
they're supposed to be.
You can charge what you want, can't you?
They're supposed to be, but listen to this. There's one guy I know who's got a season ticket in the Platinum Club. Now, the Platinum Club used to be slightly more exclusive, but now it seems to be downgraded because Newcastle are including a lot of these new corporate areas. But he was on holiday for the first couple of weeks of the season and he's missed two home games. So he's missed the Aston Villa game and he's missed the Liverpool game. So the new system that Newcastle have, for the digital system that they've got, allows him to transfer a ticket to somebody on his friends and family list. So he transferred his ticket for the Aston Villa game, and it's supposed to be free of charge. And he obviously just sorts the finance out with his friend who is going to the game. So he transferred the Aston Villa ticket, and no problems with that. The ticket was, he just did the deal himself. He did the same with the Liverpool game, and he had to pay the club £24.26 to transfer the ticket. That is because the game is a higher tier game. Oh. So he's had to pay his mates had to pay him £30, and then he's had to pay Newcastle £24.26. So the overall cost of the ticket for the Liverpool game is more expensive. Now that means that Newcastle are profiteering off that ticket sale. Now their argument, I guess, would be if he was going to go into the ballot and buy a ticket at St James's Park, then the only ticket available for that area would be between £50 and £70. So we're entitled to make the money. But if this is happening across the board at Newcastle, wow, that is and that hasn't really been publicised, lads. That hasn't been put out there. No. But again, this is what's happening behind the scenes with football, and I think it needs to be investigated, not just at Newcastle, but look at Arsenal. Look at the huge queues at that first Arsenal home game because of digital ticketing. It's a massive issue, right?
And you couldn't get in, Dave, could you? I mean, you were part of the digital ticketing setup at Middlesbrough, and you had to wait on the first day of the first game of the championship.
Well, I wasn't, because I selected not to have a digital ticket and to have the traditional season cards where you just tap them on the turnstile and you walk in. But there were a few issues at the Riverside before that opening game against Coventry, and I didn't get in until about 3:15, so I missed the first 15 minutes of the game, and that was that was a long queue. A couple of turnstiles were impacted. But look, I'll be fair to the club. They came out, they had a look at the situation, and they got it cleared. Yeah. It moved pretty quickly at about 3:15. Yeah. But Dave, what I'm interested...
I'm sure you could have got in earlier, pal. You're a mover and shaker. You could have just got...
Yeah, mate, absolutely, yeah. I should have just jangled my jewellery and eaten my prawn sandwich standing outside the main entrance, and they would have taken me in. But what I'm interested to know is why all of a sudden is it this season that it's kicking off? Has somebody come out with some innovative software solution and they've flogged it round... 35 clubs around England. I've got no idea why it's now. Why is everybody transitioning to digital ticketing this season?
It seems to be. It seems to be. Yeah, it's exactly. I was going to say. It seems to be from everywhere. Even here in Australia, everything's becoming digital. Everything. We're removing that human face-to-face interaction in case there is another situation like COVID, and we can still get football and fans into the pitch and have them segregated from face-to-face contact. And if that's, the way of the future, then so be it. But we need to still make sure that fans can get into the ground and watch the football and they're not getting priced out, especially in the UK. Obviously, I can't talk too much being here in Australia. I watch it on the TV anyway. But, if I was there and I'm paying good money, we all work so hard during a Monday to Friday. And the best thing we can do on the weekend is go and watch our local football team, the football team we love, and we want to be in there, with our mates and watching the game. And if we're either priced out or can't get into the ground, then that's just not on. And that's something that we just need to, and I think, and again, I can't speak for Newcastle or Sunderland because I'm not sure how they handle it, but Middlesbrough did very well. They realised there was an issue, and so far it has been fixed up and taken well by the club, and they've made it more. I believe the last couple of games we've been okay with it. So it is something that we're just moving in a digital direction. I think it's a way of the future, and we want just people tapping cards and walking through, no human interaction, no face-to-face handling of paper and all that sort of stuff, So it's and we look at that, with the VAR and everything as well.
To be fair to Sunderland, I think they had a trial day where they had people turn up who had cards and any questions and stuff like that. And I know that there's still issues, and obviously it's just new, and hopefully it'll get easier, and everyone can get in time to go and support their team. So it's.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea, Macca and Rai. But I think ultimately, I think it's the way that the two clubs have done it, the three clubs have done it. Sorry, I don't think there's been this transitional period. What they should have done was said, look, we're going to bring in digital ticketing, but this year, you're allowed to have a season ticket, and what we'll do is we'll phase it in this season. Next season, will be fully digital. So that gives everybody, those people who are technophobes, those people who aren't technically savvy, those people who haven't got a smartphone, those people who just don't want to do it. It gives you that opportunity to be able to go through the process and get into it, because some people will be happy to have a digital ticket in the wallet, but not everybody has a smartphone. And like Dave says, you can get some people, you can go and apply for a season ticket. I've seen people with season tickets this season, but it's caused absolute chaos. And I think the other thing, I think you say, why have they done it? I think one of the reasons for doing it is because we've had issues at St James's Park, and I'm sure you've had them at your respective stadiums, but it's when visiting supporters infiltrate the home end, and that can be a major issue, especially if it's a big game. When we played Liverpool a few seasons back, there were literally hundreds of Liverpool fans had obtained tickets in the Newcastle end when they were chasing the Premier League. And that is an absolute nightmare, guys, when you have people infiltrating your end, and it causes an issue around you when they take the lead. And I think that is a valid reason. Yeah, that's a valid reason for doing it. But at least tell the supporters that is why we're doing it. But also be honest, and don't try to profiteer out of people passing tickets on when, if you're going to sell the ticket via the club, fair enough. You take, if you're going to make money that way, that's fine. But when someone's passing a ticket on to somebody on their own friends and family list, and they're getting charged extra money and they're not being told about it, that's wrong.
And that's the reason why I decided not to take digital tickets. It's not that I'm against technology and moving forward. Look, I was working for FIFA, as you guys know, and at the World Cup, they introduced a brand new ticketing system, electronic ticketing system for the World Cup, and they didn't even trial it in smaller under-20 World Cups or anything, and it was a complete farce for the first couple of games. I saw people handwriting match tickets, blank ticket stubs out to give to people to get entry into stadiums in Doha. So, even at the highest level, it fails. It's technology, and I think we'd accept that, wouldn't we? We'd accept that you're trying something new and it doesn't work. But for me, it was a personal decision. With business, I travel abroad and I miss a chunk of Boro games because, we do TV production all around the world, and I've got to be out there when the team are doing it. So I like to hand my card on to my son and say to my son, bring a friend or bring your girlfriend or use my ticket. It becomes so much harder when you're dealing with electronic tickets to do that.
And I think it's also, we've got to be so careful with scammers as well, because, obviously scamming, I think that's one thing as well with the digital way of going is, there's always, the internet is wild these days with scamming and hacking and everything like that. So, if we are moving to a digital base, I guess there is that sort of level of security of, will my ticket already be, you rock up to the stadium and my ticket's already been checked in and you've just rocked up sort of thing. And obviously passing that off to family and loved ones, you want to be able to know that you can do that if you can't make the game. So it's a very interesting sort of process that needs to be really well, looked into. And and also, designed correctly so that, one, we're not missing out on football and having silly amount of queues. We can let family and loved ones, walk into the stadium if we can't, and we don't want our ticket or place stolen by someone else.
Yeah. Okay, fellas, look, there's much more on this we can chew the fat over. We've also got a ton of other things we have to talk about between now and 9 o'clock. And former Boro striker Andy Campbell's going to join us in about 15 minutes' time as well to have he'll chew the fat over his thoughts on what's happening on Teesside. No, and he was the man who scored a winning playoff final goal at Wembley that secured Cardiff promotion into the Premier League. So, what's it like to be that striker that scores that goal at Wembley at such a high-profile game? We've got all that to come. Your thoughts too. You can be part of the show. Send us your WhatsApp messages. All you got to do is WhatsApp this number, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. Write it down, put it in your phone, commit it to memory, whatever you got to do. One more time, 0330 043 2002, and WhatsApp your messages or even voicemails. Get them recorded and send them in, and we'll play them out across the Northeast on the Red, the Cat, and the Toon.
Why do clients choose Ather & Co?
Very diligent, very caring, put themselves in my shoes.
Always informed me, kept me up to date of what was going on.
Didn't feel I had anything to worry about, and I had nothing to do other than turn up for a medical. Athers did the rest.
For the full story, see athers.co.uk/reviews.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Windows, conservatories and so much more. With high security, great quality, the company you've been searching for. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows.
Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
A first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the Northeast, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Red, and the Toon.
Hey! Steve and Rye, the Northeast Footy Breakfast.
Right across the Northeast, the Red, the Cat, and the Toon.
And just before I get letters, I'll just correct myself, fellas. It was the goal that took Cardiff from League One into the Championship, not into the Premier League. There you go. But still a high-profile game at Wembley, and it was packed out. And wouldn't it be nice? I mean, are we all frustrated footballers? I mean, I'd love to have been a professional footballer. I did try it. I was with the Boro Juniors. I was a goalkeeper, but I just didn't stick it out. I got too interested in women and drinking and doing stuff like that. So it was never going to work for me. Ryan, would you have loved to have been a footballer, or was it never in your thought?
I kind of tried my art at the goalkeeping, and that's sort of like where I fell in love with it. But obviously, Mark Schwarzer was my idol growing up, and I don't know. I wish I had have done it, but I think my life, was destined for other things, obviously. So I think I would have loved to have been a goalkeeper, though. They seem to have a pretty easy job some of the days if you've got a good defence.
So Mark Schwartz's Skippy, that's an imaginative name, isn't it, for an Aussie? So Mark was your hero. We'll get him on the show. I'll tell you over the next few weeks, mate. We'll get him definitely on the show. Yeah. Steve, footballer?
Yeah, I mean, I was never a footballer. My nickname was Vinny as a kid, after Vinnie Jones. But I played and managed a Felon football club in Gateshead for 20 years. So I had my fair share of success. Never got relegated in 20 years. But I guess my claim to fame is I did eventually sign a contract for Newcastle United, but it was obviously as the fans' liaison officer. And I have played at St James's Park, not once but twice. I did I was in the film Goal. I played Fabian Barthez. So I did manage to score a goal at the infamous Gallagher end. It was the day after Shearer missed a penalty against Wolves. and I did play it in a charity game on there as well. So I have had a little bit of a taste of it. But as a footballer, I had 2 left feet.
Yeah, and I've got to make just before we come to Macca, I've got to make an embarrassing admission here. I actually wore a Sunderland strip and played at the Stadium of Light when the club used to put media games on immediately at the end of a season. But I did insist that we had some. Hang on, mate. Hang on, right. Let me finish. But I have to stress that before I would put the shirt on, I had to insist they give me a box of Elastoplast, so I stuck them all over the Sunderland badge. So at least I wasn't sporting the Sunderland badge, though I was wearing the kit.
Brilliant.
Macca.
So you've still never seen quality, then, have you?
I tell you what, that blooming pitch is hard. I went down. I went down more than Fabian Barthez on that pitch. I tell you, it was blooming hard. Every time you land on it, you bruise something.
I played when I was at the blind school in Edinburgh. I played for the school. I played in goal, like blind football. But I have been on the Sunderland pitch because I didn't obviously play football on it, but I'd done the half-time lottery draw when it was called the Grand in Your Hand. So yeah, when John Foster used to do the PA announcing.
He's now at the Riverside, yeah.
Yeah, so I have been on the pitch before, so that's my claim to fame. Not once, but twice.
I'll give you another one. And it was only because I was Sky's North East reporter. I used to get invited to these things. But as you know, fellas, I was also a referee. So I refereed the Robbie Mustoe testimonial game at the Riverside, and it was the pre-game. So it was a Brian Robson select team against what they call him. I'm looking at him now, and I've had a brain fart. The Cockney boy who played for Andy Townsend. It was a Robson against Townsend selection game, and we were refereeing. It was like 20 minutes each way, so I was refereeing, and it came to looking at my watch. There was 1 minute left, and I'm thinking I'm going to do something different here. By this time, there was about 15,000 in the stadium ahead of the big game kicking off, and Robbo tried to play a ball.
That's more than he gets the league games.
Yeah, hey, bum. And Robbo played a ball through the middle, right next to me. So I controlled the ball, turned round, had a shot at goal, but I shanked it and almost took the corner flag out. So I immediately blew the whistle, put my head down in shame, and walked off the pitch. That was it. Full time. Didn't want to be there anymore. Anyway,
absolutely brilliant.
Anyway,
absolutely brilliant.
So where we going now, fellas? I mean, we seem to have gone off on 27 tangents.
I tell you what's interesting today, lads, is Núñez, the Wolves player. Obviously Manchester City are chasing him, chasing his signature. They've made a £47 million bid for him, which was turned down. They're expected to come back in and make a £60 million bid for the Portuguese international. He's now gone on strike, lads. What do you think about players going on strike?
I mean, they get paid well enough, don't they? I mean, when you start getting players forcing their hands and out of the club, I can understand, when your time's up, you've had enough, you want to go, and when you've got a bigger club, bigger money and all that sort of stuff, you want to go. But I can't understand when you're still getting paid by the club that you still got to, you're under contract, you've signed a deal that you just, you still need to rock up and train. That's when the attitude for me just starts getting a little bit too farcical, because at the moment, whether the deal goes through or not, he's now, imagine in a couple of days' time, the transfer window slams shut, and for some reason, whatever it is, that the deal doesn't get done, then you've got to rock back up and go, sorry, boys, I'm back now. It doesn't look like I'm going anywhere. And, and all those boys have been still rocking up and training and being part of the club and everything like that. So I don't like seeing when players try and force their hand and stop, rocking up to the club that, has probably built their brand or made them the player that they are today. To get those types of moves, be respectful to the club that you're at still.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because and obviously you've got the fans as well. Like, surely you'd want to do your best for the club that you're at the moment. So obviously you want to do your best for the fans as well, and they're being sort of cheated by the way that they're being treated, if you know what I mean, by that player. So I think that's shocking, and they get far too much money anyway. So why should they be playing on that and trying to push more and more and get more money out of clubs? And ultimately it's just I think football's just gone crazy with regards to that.
Doesn't it tarnish the image though? As a footballer, you're probably thinking, I want to force this move, I want to make more money, I want to play for a bigger club, whatever it is, whatever your reasons, they'll be personal. But on the bigger stage, doesn't it tarnish your reputation? Won't other clubs look at you and think, well, when he gets hacked off because he's not being picked every week for us, he's going to go on strike for us. So let's do a body swerve on that one.
Been a whole host of players who've done that. I mean, in Newcastle in the past used to sign those kind of players. I think, probably thinking back to Hatton Ben Arfa, Newcastle signed him, but he went on strike to get the move, and that's the first thing you think of. You think, well, when things change here, is he going to do the same here? And these people have agents. Agents play like a big part in this kind of thing. They may be in the player's ear. I mean, clearly Wolves have got problems. In fact, a lot of teams down that area at the moment seem to have problems. There's a big campaign going on to try and get a takeover at West Bromwich Albion, which I've been following with interest. But yeah, I think Nunes is just following in a long line of footballers who shown complete disrespect for the club badge and for the supporters. It's unfortunate for Wolves. They find themselves in a bit of a mess here. And Nunes, if he doesn't want to be there, for me, I would get rid. But you've got to get the money that you want for him, and I think Wolves will hold out for a bigger payday. Man City clearly desperate after the Paqueta move fell through, of course, as well.
Yeah,
and we just had a WhatsApp in from Sai in Boro who said Emerson the Brazilian went on strike for Boro in Brian Robson's times, and the Boro told him to rot in hell, and basically ended his career in English football. So I suppose the clubs, I don't know, I was going to say the clubs have the upper hand, but do they? Because this day and age, the value of a player, they'll want to see that value if he's not going to play for them.
I think that
players have got too much power as well.
Yeah, they do. They keep holding the club ransom, and we see here. I mean, it's a $47 million move for Wolves, to potentially go to City, and but and Wolves have their valuations as well, and as any club does. And if the club that's coming in for your player isn't meeting that valuation, then that's it. You know what I mean? And that should be the end of story. But then the player gets wind, the agent's obviously in his ear saying how much you're going to get paid. This is Man City coming in for you as well. Obviously the likes and of what they've done as well. And then the players said, well, I want to go, do a deal. I'm not playing for you until then. And that for me just, ruins the attitude. And then it makes it also, I think, harder on the player when they do arrive to the new thing. You've created all this drama. You've stopped playing for Wolves. You haven't walked out and into training and that. And then you rock up. Okay, so you've pushed through the deal for Man City. You better perform when you get to Man City, I tell you, because if you've gone around and thrown the tantrum, spat the dummy to try and get that dream move for you, you better perform when you do arrive, because so many players do this and then seem to get to that new club, that dream move, and fizzle out.
The grass isn't always greener, lads.
Nope.
There's a voice a voice of experience, it sounds like.
No, definitely.
I think as well, Dave. Those what ifs that we were doing earlier. Did you know that Boro almost had Erling Haaland? Did you hear that? We were scouting him early on, and that we could have had him as a youngster. Yeah. Just one thing that popped up in my mind and I got a message about was, another what if was Erling Haaland could have been a Boro fan. Can you imagine that? We would have, we don't even need Saudi Arabian money then if we had Haaland.
We'd have been promoted this season already.
There we go. It's took 45 minutes and he's on about Saudi Arabian money. Macca's come on, hasn't even mentioned it, and you're straight in with the Saudi Arabian money.
I love it. There's a lot of what ifs. Maybe we should do a what if section on the show.
Well, I'd love it. I've got a quick one. Because I know we've got a guest coming on it. But from my perspective, here's a good story. Newcastle United, back in the 80s, there was a very famous Brazilian footballer called Socrates. And a journalist who will remain nameless had to protect his integrity. He was sitting in a bar one day and overheard a conversation from a couple of students that Newcastle United were going to sign the great Socrates. Or so he thought. He clearly had a couple of drinks, because it turned out when he ran the story, Socrates is coming to Newcastle, that the agent rang up and said, where have you got this story from? Socrates is not coming to Newcastle. It turned out it was a student band visiting the university that was coming to Newcastle.
Love it. Oh, that's even better than the Maradona coming to Sunderland line. I love it. All right, I tell you what, fellas, we do have a guest coming on, so time for us to do a bit of housekeeping. But keep your comments coming in on WhatsApp. If you want to be part of the show, send us your text messages via WhatsApp or your voicemails if you want. 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. It is the North East Brekky, right across the North East on the Cat, the Red and the Toon, and Andy Campbell of Boro and Cardiff fame will be joining us next.
We all support the NHS, but accidents do happen. Maybe failure to diagnose, misdiagnosis, or unusual delay. If that negligence leads to any loss or exacerbation of your condition or a new condition, then you're entitled to compensation. Talk to Ather & Co. We're not afraid to take on powerful organisations such as the NHS and their legal team.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
Clark. My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
A first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the North East, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Red and the Toon.
Steve and Rye. The North East Footy Breakfast.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red.
We play some cracking music as well as do some cracking footy chat on the North East Footy Brekky. Don Henley, Boys of Summer. It is the Cat, the Red and the Toon all together. And the Boys of Summer. Yeah, no, actually, one boy of summer, one boy of winter, because Rye, of course, is just coming out of winter down under. What was the daytime temperature, mate? What was the high today?
I think we got to about a 13 today, maybe a 14. It's pretty cold where I live in the west, so it's it's not too bad.
All right, okay. God, can you imagine if our daytime high was 14 degrees in December in the northeast? It would be fantastic. I'd love it. But there you go. And Steve Wraith's with us, and also the man who we gave the big build-up about scoring at Wembley and all that sort of stuff, and how the Boro could do with a striker right now who's banging goals in. Andy Campbell, good morning.
Good morning, mate. You okay?
Yeah, all good, all good. Now I know Rye's bursting at the seams to say hello, and he's already got his worship mat out to bow in front of yourself. So go on, Rye, hit him.
Andy, it's good to meet you. Obviously, Rye from Australia. Lovely to talk to you and have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, mate. Hope you're well. Hope the weather sounds amazing. Not jealous at all.
It is, yeah. We're getting out of winter here. We're just going into spring down in Australia. But it's a lovely 5 p.m. afternoon. We've got the sun shining, so I can't complain.
No, fabulous. No, great to meet you. Nice to be on.
I wanted to talk to you quickly about, obviously, you've just come off the back of managing the Middlesbrough women and getting them started. Obviously, them signing with the club officially in the off-season as well, and how you see women's football, and we'll obviously lead that into what your thoughts on the Women's World Cup. But if we could start with the Middlesbrough women and how big it was for them to be actually signed on by the club officially.
Oh, it's massive. Obviously when I took over 2 years ago, talks were evolving. It was the only natural progression, really. I think every professional football club really needs a women's division. I think for equality, for diversity, for the club to move forward, because within business, within everything and within enterprise, men and women, you know what I mean? There's equal divisions. So I think it was always that equal opportunity and chance, and for girls to be subject to. Listen, there's loads of young girls in the Middlesbrough area, the North East area. Newcastle, Sunderland have got their own strong football side, so for me, Middlesbrough had to get one and follow suit.
No, I really enjoyed seeing that you signed on, and it's obviously given more coverage to the girls as well. We see the club now retweeting and obviously them having their own Twitter profile and stuff like that, and obviously social media being so big, but it's just good to see them actually having an official sort of place now with the club, and that we can actually keep up to the date with it and get down to the girls if you are in the local area and watch them and support them, because I think women's football is going absolutely gangbusters as we lead into obviously the Women's World Cup. And I guess, what were your thoughts about the Women's World Cup?
I thought it was excellent. Listen, I've got 3 girls. 2 of my girls play football at decent levels, and I think it's really good for them to be able to have aspirations and people to look up to, and see the game in its natural light with big attendances, highlights on TV, and being able to really buy into it. Obviously disappointed with the final outcome, but I think sometimes don't run before you can walk. I think it's a natural progression. I think there's a lot more to come from the English game, especially the women's game. I think it's still growing, still got a lot of growth to go, still evolving, and I think it was fantastic. Real good advertisement for the women's game, I think.
Go on, sorry, Ryan. Keep going.
You go, Dave.
Keep going.
I'm sorry. I'm excited. It's Andy Campbell. I just wanted to ask, I guess, in terms of obviously the latter news, obviously being unfortunately the famous kiss now, obviously with the Spanish winning the Women's World Cup, and I guess how you took that as someone that's been so connected to the women's game, and has it tarnished it for you? Is it something you've seen? Obviously, is it something? I mean, I made a comment yesterday of trying to get more women into those roles in terms of head coaching and into sort of presidential roles and stuff like that when they are connected to women's football. Is it something you see is an issue, or do you think it tarnished the World Cup, or do you think it's just something that was a one-off?
I think it's tarnished something. I don't know what it's tarnished. I don't think we need to probably panic in terms of to stop men being involved in the women's game because of what's happened. I think it's probably an isolated incident. I think it's great for the women's game to have experienced people who've been involved in the men's game and who can push the women's game a lot quicker. I'd like to see a lot more women involved in the men's game for whatever however that looks in terms of roles.
Agreed.
But I think I think this could I think it could tarnish it a little bit. It could knock it back a little bit. But I think we need to look at the bigger picture. This is just one person, and one person's done what he's done. And just don't tie everyone with the same brush, really. Because listen, when I was manager, it was a case of you can only go in the change room at certain times, you can only do certain things, and you've got to act a certain way, and that's just being a human being and being a male in a diverse and equal life space, you know. So I think one person's mistake doesn't need to ruin it for everybody.
No, I love that, and I think that's definitely right. I think it's definitely sort of. For the women's game, I think it's obviously, we're only going to get bigger and better now, and I think it's definitely a great comment to not tarnish the whole women's game. And for obviously the World Cup, Women's World Cup was here in Australia, and I was saying yesterday, we had one of the most highest viewed sports coverages here on TV when the Matildas were playing the Lionesses, and it was just great for the women's game, and for I've got a young daughter myself, and to see them now taking football, which is here in Australia is still so far down in terms of love and coverage. We've got the AFL, the NRL, rugby league, union even, and cricket obviously when that's on. Sorry about the Ashes, and sort of taking over. So it was, for me, it was great. But go on, Dave. What was your?
No, I was going to ask about the kiss, but you've dealt with that admirably, and I know we'll bounce back onto that subject before 9 o'clock. But Andy, go on, Steve.
Yeah, good morning. Steve Wraith here. Just want to ask you about VAR, Andy, and what your thoughts are. I mean, we've had Mike Dean over the last 4 or 5 days digging himself a big hole. But the Newcastle game at the weekend, we saw Trent Alexander-Arnold and we saw Virgil van Dijk incidents. I've been watching this with interest because a lot of these high-profile commentators, Simon Jordan on TalkSport in particular, believes that Virgil van Dijk should get an extension to his suspension for the way that he reacted, and a lot of people feel that Trent Alexander-Arnold should have gone as well. What's your thoughts on that from the weekend?
I 100% believe that Trent should have gone. I think VAR needs to be looked at in a certain way. For me, I think it's got to help referees out in the bigger picture, in the whole grand scheme of things. For me, it was a yellow card. 100% yellow. It would have been a yellow if he hadn't already received a yellow. I do believe he rushed into the Van Dijk one because he hadn't sent Trent off. I do believe it was a red card in the end, but I think we would have got there with VAR's help. And I just think the whole thing just looks a mess. I thought that first and foremost, I thought the game was too big for the referee. The Liverpool game, I thought he started it really poorly and he just lost control in his spiral straight away, and I think the situations were just a mess. But he's got help, you know what I mean, so he doesn't have to rush things. I look at linesmen not giving offsides and the wait till the last minute, probably too long in my opinion. It would drive me mad as a centre forward if I've wasted 70 yards running and then smashed the ball in the net and celebrating and looking he's got his flag up. It would absolutely drive me mad every week. But I just think sometimes VAR's got to, probably explain. One thing I liked about the Women's World Cup, to go back on, the referee came out and explained the outcome and explained why the decision was made. At the minute, we don't know why those decisions are being made and why they're not being made because there's no communication, what we can hear, between anybody. So I think there's got to be some kind of communication to somebody so we can get the outcome, because referees don't come out after the game and explain the situation and their own decisions or why the groups decided what they decided. So I think for transparency, I would like it to come apparent why they're making these kind of decisions, or have people who've played the game to help them out as well. You know, I'm not saying players who played the game are more experienced, but I think players who played the game can be taught how to use these kind of systems, be taught how to learn a new skill, and then give their experience as a footballer of why a player might have done what he's done, and then come out with the better outcome. Because Trent should have been sent off. I can't believe the manager didn't bring him off after what he'd done, because he was a red card waiting to happen. And I still even think later on he was doing things which the referee could have sent him off again if he wanted to.
You had me on your side there for a moment, Andy. You know, I totally agree about communications. Refs should communicate. And maybe on another conversation, I'll ask you to, you know, put your football boots back on and just reminisce on how you used to communicate to refs on the pitch and vice versa. But then you lost me completely by saying former professionals should become referees, because they've got no idea. I forever have I don't have conversations, I have arguments with Cammy. Bless him, Chris Kamara, who I know really well, and all he keeps saying to me is, when did you play the game, Dave? When did you play the game? And my response is, when did you ever become a referee? When did you ever learn the laws of the game? When did you go through training on how those laws should be applied? So you had me for a minute there, Andy, but I'm sorry you lost me, mate.
I think the two need to come together, and I don't think referees go into clubs enough and have that kind of link, you know. And I go back in the day, 96 when I started, 95, 96, when Jeff Winter wasn't allowed to do our Middlesbrough game, but he came in to teach us the new rules, what were coming in, the back pass law, all these other rules, and I just think if we had that kind of link from the Premier League officials to go into clubs and teach him X, Y, and Z, I think the relationships would be better. You know, we spoke on the show, Dave, about respect from players to referees and referees to players, and the whole thing needs to get better. You know, and I think the quicker that does happen, I think it'll help the game, because at the minute we're stuck in a rut. We're in a bit of a mess in terms of VAR, in terms of. I don't know. I used to like officials making decisions, and then we could talk about it later on about was it good, was it bad? Did they make the brave call? At the minute, there's just no decisions being made at all.
It kills the game flat, doesn't it, when there's a VAR intervention? Because goals scored, people celebrate. Then it's like, let's stop our celebrations because it might be ruled out because VAR's got to check it. And then even if the referee points to the centre circle and says it is a goal after the decision, we've lost that emotion out of the game.
Yeah, totally, and I couldn't ever imagine myself scoring a goal and not celebrating and waiting and then celebrating again, because you've lost that moment, you've lost that excitement, and I just look at it's making football a little bit sterile. It's making it probably look as less fun. I think supporters in the Premier League don't look like they're enjoying it as much as fans in League Two, League One, the Championship, and it just doesn't seem as much fun as it used to be. And that's my opinion as a footballer who would love to still be playing now and still be involved in the game, but it just looks very sterile.
Well, you can come in here any time you want, mate, and be part of the show. Just to be involved in the game from a microphone perspective, absolutely. Now, I promised it was only going to be a 5-minute chat, and it's already been 15, mate, so I do apologise. But fantastic stuff. Thanks for joining us. And
thanks, Andy.
And
my pleasure.
Welcome anytime, mate. Absolutely.
Anytime. Phone's always on.
You're a good man.
I always
appreciate it, Andy.
Thanks,
Glad to meet you, mate.
Have a good show.
And we didn't ask him what it was like to score that goal at Wembley, so we'll do that next time.
No.
Absolutely, we will.
Yeah.
Okay, fellas, we're long past. We're 3 minutes after when we should have played the news, so let's do that now. We'll be back with the North East Footy Breakfast, and my phone's ringing if you can hear it in the background. It's the North East Footy Breakfast on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. It's It's Cy. I've done it again. It's Rye and Steve, Cy and Reeve. Across the North East, that's it. And I'm going to go for a lie down in the darkened corner. We have the Toon for Newcastle, Gateshead and Tyneside. We have the Cat for Sunderland and Wayside. And we have the Red, which is the studio I'm in at the moment doing this, for Boro, Stockton and Teesside. So there you go. If ever you needed proof, fellas. And funnily enough, we're not even going to talk about any of the big three. You want to talk about Hartlepool?
I do, yeah. I just wanted to bring up Hartlepool. I think they're just, again, the Northeast football, obviously, we've got the big three, obviously, Boro, Sunderland and Newcastle. But I feel that forgotten club, Little Hartlepool United, kicking goals in the non-league now, obviously being relegated from League Two end of last season. We've just seen a bit of a refresh for them, I think. And I think it's just well-deserved of how much they've bounced back. Obviously, no team wants to be relegated, especially out of League Two. But in the manager, John Askey, we've just seen him sign a new 3-year deal. at the end of last season, it was all, doom and gloom. And we saw Raj Singh putting the club up for sale and stuff like that. But I just wanted to see, what the boys think of the teams, and the non-league of the team at Hartlepool United, obviously being so close to Middlesbrough as well, of how they're faring and what you think.
I listened to the Hartlepool game yesterday, because obviously they played on Saturday at 5:30 against AFC Fylde and won. But yesterday they went to probably what would be their promotion rivals in Chesterfield, and they went 2-0 up, played really well for the first 20 minutes. Then one of their main players, got injured. His name I can't pronounce, and he went off, obviously injured, and didn't come back, and they ended up losing 3-2. And of course they had former Sunderland Academy goalkeeper Joel Dixon in goal. So yeah, it was a bit disappointing from a Hartlepool point of view yesterday, because they should have really held on. But obviously Chesterfield, since they got the injury, and Chesterfield did score a couple of minutes before that, it brought Chesterfield right back into the game. And I think because Hartlepool was sitting at the top of the league, now to be replaced by Solihull, I think Chesterfield were well up for it, and I think their fans were probably more up for that game than there would have been like a Hartlepool game if Hartlepool weren't top of the league, if you know what I'm saying. So, but I think John Askew has done a reasonably good job, and I think Hartlepool, I think they've won 4 out of their 6 games so far. So I think you've got to give the guy credit, who was previously manager at York City as well. So yeah, I hope Hartlepool get themselves back into the league, because obviously they had a win over Sunderland in a pre-season friendly as well. Ultimately, which is a friendly, but it's still just something for your confidence. So hopefully they can bounce back.
That division is such a tough division to get out of. Just looking at their stats, they've scored 15, but they've conceded 11 Hartlepool, and they're sitting in 4th. It's such a tight division. Chesterfield have got the same goal average as well. It's clear that everybody in that division can score against each other. But it's there's so many teams, from the northeast in there as well, or consider the northern teams. You've got Gateshead in there, sitting in 11th place on 8 points. Only 4 points behind Hartlepool. They've got a good chance this season of doing something. You would think with Mike Williamson and the boys down there. You've got York City, who sitting second bottom at the moment. But I tell you what amazes me when I looked at the league table, how many big names are in there and who've stayed in there. Oldham Athletic. Go back to the 90s in the very early days of the Premier League. They had people like Andy Ritchie banging goals in, and they were, Newcastle played down there. You've got Southend United, who, are a big team. Who I was surprised to see them there. I don't pay much attention to that league.
They're last, yeah.
There's some big points deduction. Some big names in there, though, lads. You know what I mean? It's a hard division to get out of, and it must be soul destroying for teams like Oldham who've dropped as far as that. Who find themselves in a position really at the start of the season in 20th position, potentially looking towards another drop. How on earth these teams survive, I really don't know. But yeah, it's a tough league. That I presume is it one who comes up from that league as well. I don't know. Is it one automatic?
So,
Yeah. So that in itself tells you, that's like the golden ticket getting out of that division. But Hartlepool have got off to a good start. They're a great club, Hartlepool. I used to go down there years ago. My granddad was a referee assessor, and I used to go and watch Hartlepool games, Darlington games, Gateshead games. Gateshead were in the Northern Premier League at the time. I remember seeing Terry Hibbert and Bob Toppin play in a promotion winning season down there. But what always used to amaze me was the Hartlepool Darlington games. And I think it was at Hartlepool where they had that infamous the ground, the Victoria ground. At half time, the Hartlepool fans would walk around the stadium from behind one goal and go behind the next goal. So and intimidate the team at both ends during the game. And I found that absolutely mental, mental. But
it's worth just mentioning. We mentioned Darlington. Obviously, they got a 2-2 draw with South Shields. South Shields scoring in the last minute with a penalty. So obviously they're in the league below the National League. They're in the Conference North, but South Shields look like another team on the up as well. Obviously they had Kevin Phillips as manager, and now they've got, I think, is it Julio Arca, isn't it? So hopefully they can come because you want as many as the North East teams in the league and in the National League with a chance to get into the league as possible, really.
And just pulling,
it's good for the area.
Yeah, it is. And maybe there's a show for us to do across the northeast on outside of the big three, what's happening at the Concerts and the Ashingtons and the Mask Uniteds. But just having a look at that, Steve, you said it's a really tough league to get out of. It is, but it's a really tough league to survive in as well, because Southend are bottom of the pile. They could well go out of business in the next 2 weeks. They're doing everything they can to try and save their lives. I mean, there's been court hearings and all sorts of stuff, winding up orders that are in the process at the moment. So, a club like Southend United, who were a mainstay of the top 4 divisions at one point, it really is sad to see clubs struggling like that.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is, and I mean, these kind of clubs are the clubs really which supporters like I would say old school supporters love to go and follow. That we've got a thriving non-league up here, and until there was a restructuring of the FA Vars, over the last 15-20 years, we've had a proud history of winning the FA Vars. But these are the kind of clubs. It's great as somebody who supports a Premier League team. It's great to be able to go and watch non-league football because you get a real taste of what the game used to be like. You know what I mean? The banter between the supporters, the banter between you and the players on the pitch, or giving the officials a little bit of good-natured stick, going and getting a pie and going and getting a pie in Bovril at half time. It is a flashback to the old days. But these clubs need help, and I still think in the FA chain of command there needs to be more money ploughed into non-league lads.
Yeah, can I tell you a little tale about that? Because I used to referee I started refereeing in the Northern Prem, and then the FA did a restructure of that level of the game, and they brought the Northern League in alongside. So then I was spread a bit more thinly across both Northern Prem and the Northern League. There's an infamous manager who was at Bishop Auckland, Tony Lee. You might know of him, Steve. You might have heard.
Yes, I've met him.
Yeah, he's done the right. He's no longer with us, sadly. We lost him this year. And Tony I used to be the senior linesman when I was coming up through the ranks. So I'd always end up with Tony Lee in my ear, and he used to know me from Sky when I was doing the Sky North East reporter's job, and he'd be forever talking to me during a game. Your mate's useless, Dave. I can't wait until you get promoted as a referee, because you talk sense, you know the game, you understand the game. Dave, your mate's useless. That's a terrible decision. How can he make a decision? You tell him at half time. You tell him. So he was forever in my ear, and he was always saying, I can't wait until you become a referee. Well, the day I became promoted and then got Bishop Auckland, I went in the middle. At the end of the game, he walked up and he went, "You're just as bad as the rest of them," and walked away.
Well, actually, seeing as we're talking about Hartlepool, I've got a great Joe Allen story about a particular game when Hartlepool actually played Sunderland at the Victoria Ground, and as people were queuing to get in at one of the turnstiles, there was one guy who was very particular about his job. He was a bit of a Jobsworth, and this guy comes up to him, a blonde-haired guy comes up to him and he says, "Hi mate," he says, I'm on the guest list, I'm supposed to be sitting with the Sunderland directors," and he goes, "Yeah, well," he says, "you want to go around," he says, "around the corner, up the road," and he says, "you come to the front the front entrance," he says, "and if you go and ask at the box office there," he says, "you'll be okay, you'll probably be, your name will be on the list and be able to get tickets." He went, No, I don't think you understand." He says, "I'm with the Sunderland directors, he says, I've just been told to come here and you let us in." He went, No, son," he says, "you need to go up that road," he says, "around the corner," he says, "you need to go to the front entrance," and he says, "you'll ask the girl there," and he says, "she'll be able to help you out." He says, "Look, I don't think you understand, mate." He says, "I've just been to the Olympics. I've just run in the 800 metres and the 1500 metres." He says, "My name's Steve Cram," and he says, "I should be on that list." He says, "Well, it won't take you long to get round that corner, son." Absolutely brilliant.
Come on, Mackie, you must have some. We're all coming out with the famous lines now. Have you got any funny ones, Macca?
Sorry?
Any funny stories to add to the pile?
I was just thinking. I was trying to think. No, I don't think I have at this precise
well,
you'll have to give me. I was listening so intently to Steve and story there, so you'll have to give me a couple of minutes to see if I can come up with something.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. And no is the correct answer as well. If you haven't got any, mate, don't worry, no pressure. I'm not
it's
asking
crazy to see, to wrap as well, with the Southend United as well, just to wrap that up as well. I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember it must have been 2013-14, Southend United in the Cup against Man United, Freddie Eastwood scoring that goal. It was like, and to see how far they've gone and to potentially now disappear. I mean, you just feel for the fans, don't you, of clubs that are, and I guess we talk about, we talked about earlier about, our issues with digital marketing and ticketing and we're not going to get any transfers through the door, or, we're going to get players, Steve's there wondering if Harry McGuire is going to sign, and we got clubs down in the non-leagues that are literally fighting for survival for their existence. And it's incredible to see the top of it to what it's like at the bottom. And when we see, like we talked about earlier as well, we saw Núñez standing off, not wanting to train, to go force a move to Man City, when you've got players that are fighting for the club's existence down there. Do you know what I mean? It's just the scale of it from the top down to the bottom is just so severe that it's incredible that we're still in this day and age seeing clubs, teetering on the edge of survival.
Well done, mate. You navigated that well. What you really meant to say was, it's really disappointing to see the likes of Southend and struggling financially clubs like that, and you've got Newcastle with all that Saudi money. I know that's exactly what you were going to say.
Always.
I do have a question for Rye, though. Rye. And it's this. Actually, a couple of questions. Obviously, the first one is, obviously, you're an Australian. Why did you pick Middlesbrough? And secondly, the Australian national team. Obviously, as I said to you earlier, I'm a Hibs fan, and obviously you've got Martin Boyle that plays for Australian. Don't worry, that's not someone going to take me away. But you've got Martin Boyle that plays for the Australian national team. So what's the support like with regards to the men's national team without in Australia?
I guess so. For the first point, the Middlesbrough sort of connection was we spoke earlier about me wanting to be a goalkeeper. I used to grow up and played AFL, which is our local sort of football thing, so popular here in Australia. And
Footy.
At one stage, I was starting to fall in love with football, and I decided I wanted to be a goalkeeper coming from the AFL. And at that time, we had Mark Schwarzer, was one of the most decorated heroes of the Australian football. He was the influential reason that we were able to get to the World Cup, and I ended up starting following to him and watched him playing for Middlesbrough week in, week out. I just fell in love with Middlesbrough and the place and the town, and he was the initial connection that got me in. But once I started watching Middlesbrough week in, week out, I used to buy the DVDs of the Premier League season reviews and stuff like that, because again, back then coverage of the football in Australia was non-existent. You'd have to you had to either pay a lot or stay up till silly o'clock and to watch any sort of coverage of the football. So I used to buy the DVDs and Mark Schwarzer highlights and stuff like that, and fell in love with the town, the place, the people, and never left. And a lot of people say, if there's not an Aussie, would you be still supporting the Boro? And I, of course, there's no looking back for me now. Even if the currents Riley McGuire, and Sammy Silvera were to walk out, I still love that town and that club with all my heart. It's a team that I would never leave, and something that I've just grown to love even more and more. And it's I don't know, can't explain the connection I have with that club, and being able to announce some transfers in the off season and stuff like that was incredible. Yeah, and to your second point, I guess, about the Socceroos, it's no. Look, I spoke about this with Steve, I think offline. But we don't have a home for the Socceroos. No, we don't have a stadium, a training pitch. And I talk about a story that I think summarises it the best. With Riley McGuire, obviously the Middlesbrough GOAT, as I like to refer to him. He comes obviously and wants to plays for Australia. He's got 18-hour, 17-hour flights to come back to Australia. In an international break. So imagine jumping on a plane 17, 18 hours. You've just finished a game on the weekend in the championship. You get to Australia and you want to play. There's nowhere for them to go. They go check into a hotel. And the coach, Graham Arnold, talks about with the players that come off the long flights, obviously they're tired, they're muscle fatigued. He wants them ready to go running on the pitch the next day. And he's having to put ice baths for them in their hotel rooms. So he's ordering ice up to their hotel rooms, filling up the bath with ice, getting the boys into an ice bath in that way to get recovery off the long flights. And because Australia's governing body doesn't, we've just injected, I think, a $200 million deal into the women's football after the success of the Matildas we saw. We don't have a home for these boys to come back to. We don't have a training ground, a one home place where all these guys can fly into because of the dominance of the AFL, the rugby league, the union, the cricket. Football really does fall down that pecking order, and unfortunately the A-League as well, although it's been successful in its own right, we still see these A-League boys like Sammy Silvera, who's just signed for Middlesbrough, still wanting that dream move to England because it's, that's where football's the biggest and gets the most coverage and the most money and everything like that. So unfortunately the Socceroos still a long way to go in terms of getting the finances and the backing from the Australian government and from Australia. We have got loyal supporters, don't get me wrong. We've got boys that will fly. I'm very jealous. I was talking to Riley the other day. He's got a game in Texas, in America, against Mexico in an international break in mid-September. And I was very jealous. But, games like that where the Socceroos are playing Mexico, they don't play it here in Australia. They're playing it in America, in the USA, because that's where they can get more traction and stuff like that. We don't see them. We saw a preseason game for the Socceroos in China as well. So because the stadiums here in Australia are all filled up with AFL, rugby league or cricket. So, how are we meant to start following the Socceroos when they're still playing in China and USA and playing friendlies like that, not even at home?
Yeah, I know it's a frustrating point. When I was doing my time with FIFA, I got to talk with James Johnson a lot. He's the chief exec of Football Australia, and he was voicing his frustration at not being able to have like a national training centre for the guys.
Exactly.
And obviously that's their focus right now, is to try and make that happen. But like you say, if it's fourth, fifth tier sport, or that's how it's considered, mind you, the Matildas might have done you a favour, because what was it, 44% of the entire population
agree.
watch that semi-final game against the Lionesses. So suddenly there is a bit of an uplift in soccer over there.
Yeah. No, I think there is, and I think obviously with the success, and it's only driven by success, as is anything, do you know what I mean? The more successful the Socceroos are, the more successful the Matildas are, it's going to drive numbers to the ground and stuff like that. I want to ask, and maybe, Steve can touch on this. What is the setup for the England football team in England there? So obviously we've got the international break coming up next week. The players that are selected for England to play in those international friendlies, do they have, do they all go meet at one place? Can the fans go there and watch them train and all that sort of stuff?
They go down to St George's, but they don't. No, the fans don't go down and see them. It's quite closed off and quite private. Obviously the media get the invite to go down, but I mean it's a great area. I mean, Dan Ashworth, who's at Newcastle now, played a big part in establishing that and setting all of that up. But they don't do like an open training session and stuff like that. Which they've never done that. Obviously we've got Wembley where we play our games. Our home games. But yeah, I mean. I think with England, it's an acquired taste. I think 1990 Gaza, Tears in Turin, there was a real big burst of national pride. I think sometimes it comes when there's a low social ebb in the country. We needed something to cling on to. Football was coming out of Heysel and Hillsborough, and there was this big boost. Football's coming home, etc. And I think now, I don't really think we have that kind of passion anymore for England. Mm-hmm. I think it's becoming a bit boring, predictable, sterile under Southgate. I think Southgate. I think there's a feeling amongst people who watch the national game that Southgate picks his pals. He's seen it a lot of games, but very rarely changes the squad that he picks. And I think we're probably coming close to a change with the national manager sooner rather than later. But we never picked the right managers for me. The best one we had in recent times, other than Sir Bobby, was Terry Venables, a Maverick. And I think we all like a Maverick. The one that never got the job, who should have, of course, was Cloughie, Brian Clough.
Yeah.
Serena Wiegman, she'll be next.
Yeah.
Oh, dear me now. Don't get me started on that.
I still feel Middlesbrough could be different if Steve McLaren had have stayed on and not gone to obviously the England helm, but how can you turn that down? But it's interesting to hear that you feel, the England game obviously being stale, because I guess, with Australia, it's so unique to us still that the coaching pedigree of I think the only sort of one that we can sort of go back to, we keep having like local coaches, but we've obviously got Ange Postecoglou now, who is actually driving the most coverage I've ever seen here in Australia. Obviously Ange Postecoglou leaving Celtic and taking on the head job at Spurs, being an Aussie, and obviously any time there's an Aussie in the Premier League, we seem to, the TV pops up and we seem to get more coverage. So seeing Aussies in those critical roles in England seem to drive the driving force for here in Australia. And if we can get more people like that into prestigious roles and stuff like that, when maybe we can see a bit more love for it here in Australia. But it's interesting to see. And then who would you pick then, Steve, if you had the choice? It was up to you. Southgate gets sacked in the morning. Who's coming in for you?
Difficult question, that, really. I mean, a lot of people would probably say Eddie Howe's your natural choice, especially after what he did last year. I don't think Eddie Howe would take the England job at the moment, but I certainly think if it fell in his lap at a point where he was keen to take it, I think he would. I often feel, maybe going down the foreign manager route is the next step. I think, I'd love to see Pep Guardiola in charge of the England team. I think he would do well. Wow. When I mentioned about the female manager coming in and taking charge of the England squad, I just couldn't see that happening. Not in the short term anyway. Maybe it'll happen in the long term, but the two games are vastly different. They are vastly different. It's 11 players against 11 players kicking a football around, but it is a vastly different game, the men's game to the women's game, and I just think that I think she would struggle. I think she would struggle as England manager in a dressing room full of overpaid egos. I just think it would be different. It's a completely different setup.
It is a massively different game. I mean, I refereed when I was in the US for 4 years. I refereed the NCAA competitions out there, which is their university stuff. You think university, but 120,000 turn up to the American football games, and it's a different psychology to the game. It's a different approach to the game. It's a different style of play for the game. Everything is so different between the men and the women's game, and I'll be honest, I preferred to referee men's football just because of how it differed and it suited my style of refereeing.
Can we touch on Sunderland, lads, if you don't mind? I'm feeling a bit left out here, but because I'm just getting really frustrated with the way the club is being run at the moment, both on the pitch and off the pitch. I feel that some of the decisions, that, for example, Speakman, the head of recruitment and stuff. I was listening to the legends, and obviously Lee Clark was saying that he'd worked with him at Birmingham City. He's academy coach, and his philosophy is to bring in young players. But we need somebody with experience, and we're desperately crying out for a striker up front. And we got away with it last season because we had players like Diallo, who was scoring goals for fun, and obviously we're getting a lot of goals from Jack Clark as well. And obviously we're just really missing a striker, and I don't understand how a team can sort of run without having a striker. It beggars belief. I don't understand. They've had 4 transfer windows to sort of realise that they needed a striker, and we just seem to be just going on from crisis to crisis. And I feel really sorry for Tony Mowbray, because he's been put in that position there. Obviously, how can you do your job if you don't have the right tools? And the thing is, I'm just scared that we're going to lose Tony Mowbray. And to be honest with you, Ryle know this, being a Boro fan as well. Tony Mowbray is such a charismatic guy, and the thing is, he's one of the best, if not the best, manager that Sunderland has had in a long time. And if we're gonna lose him, because I feel like he's been forced out of the club because they're not helping him. And I feel like the owners want to bring their own people in, and I think that they're just trying to push it to try and get Tony Mowbray to walk. Because I don't think they'll sack him, because that would cost a lot of money when they sack him. I think they'll try and get him to walk. And I heard you saying yesterday that Sunderland's run on a tight budget. I don't feel like we are running a tight budget. I think the money's there, but I just don't think it's been spent.
Interesting that, Mowbray's tried and tested. Mowbray's tried and tested at that level as well. You know what I mean? He's done so well, and he's one of these managers that can come in and work on a tight budget. But ultimately, for me, as a Newcastle fan looking at Sunderland, it is one of those clubs that's ripe for a takeover. I think it's a club that could have Saudi or Qatari money chucked at it because of the fan base, though. Because of the fan base, even Americans, which are the there seemed to be the dreaded disease in English football at the moment. People would groan if another American takeover took place. But it's interesting to hear you say that. I mean, I know people who've met the Sunderland owners and say, well, they're really nice people. They seem to be very amicable. They seem to be friendly. But as a football supporter, you're not bothered about that. You just want to see them run your football club properly. And I've got to be honest, I have scratched my head at the centre forward situation. Although you do have a Newcastle fan who is going to make a big impact down there if you keep on playing him in young Riggs. I mentioned him the other day, Macca. Riggs is a cracking player. Newcastle really missed the boat on signing him as a youngster. I know that
he was on the bench
Newcastle
on
didn't rate him. Yeah, he could be the person who fills the gap, and if you're good enough, then you're old enough, and maybe he could be the answer to your prayers. But transfer window's still open, lads, and there's still time for Boro and Sunderland to make a few more signings.
I'll tell you what, fellas, we'll come back onto that. Just hold your thoughts for the moment. We've just got to take a quick break. It is the North East Footy Brekky across the North East on the Cap, the Red and the Toon. You can get your comments in via WhatsApp 0330 043 2002. Who do you want to see come into your club, Boro, Sunderland, Newcastle, before the window shuts in a couple of days' time? 0330 043 2002.
I fell off a chair at work. The chair was faulty and they knew it was faulty. I sustained a herniated disc and it causes me to have sciatica.
Thanks to Ather & Co, Victoria was able to claim thousands for her accident at work. For the full story, see athers.co.uk/reviews.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
Clark. My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking a ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the North East, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Red and the Toon.
Steve and Rye. The North East Footy Breakfast.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red.
Oh, we do like to keep it northeast. James Arthur, good Teesside lad, impossible. We did have a bit of fender yesterday, so we are trying to balance it, guys. I think tomorrow we'll have to stick some Ferry on it. And Brian Ferry's a bit strange, because I'm not saying he's strange personally, but he comes from Washington, but he's always linked with Sunderland rather than Newcastle.
But there is a link. There is a link to my family.
So you can give us the goss then. Give us the goss.
He was a cousin 3 times removed to me mum, who is sadly no longer with us. So we are actually related in some way, shape, or form.
And is he a red, white, and black? Or is he a black and white?
I don't know, mate. I've never had a Christmas card. He never writes. He never calls.
Macca, is he as a Sunderland fan, is Brian Ferry considered a Sunderland fan?
I've never heard him being mentioned as one, but if it's Washington, then he should be, because it's Wayside, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's only a hill away from Tyneside. I'm sure there's black and whites and red, white and blacks living side by side in perfect harmony, of course. Anyway, enough of that. Fellas, we were talking just before we had a little bit of music on the Cat, the Red and the Toon about transfer windows, Mogger, Sunderland needing a striker. I suppose... Rye, could, where we were talking Sunderland, you could just get a bit of Tipex, remove the word Sunderland and put Middlesbrough, couldn't we? Because don't Boro need a striker.
I mean, we do. We're looking for a big transfer deadline day, but and you shared a story with us earlier in the chat. We have Dave about other Boro sort of preparing us for nothing to come in the next few days. We got the Gazette talking about. Obviously reporting that it's not all Carrick saying it's not be end all in if we don't get someone in. So I think in terms of for Middlesbrough, someone made a good point on the social media. I think Latte Last is a good striker. I think we got Alex Gilbert backing up. You look at Sunderland and they're playing Bellingham up front, and they've obviously got Ross Stewart injured who'll come back. And I think they're obviously. Probably Mogger said, the strikers that are out there, they don't fall off trees, and, maybe there's just not one out there. And I think we just need to focus actually on someone, on a number 6, to be honest with you. If we get one in, it's got to be a number 6, someone to cover Johnny Howson and Hayden Hackney. in that centre defensive role, someone that can win the ball and get in front of John Smith, when he was running at us on the weekend sort of thing, someone that's not afraid to throw their body. And you know what, I'd even take Alex Mowat back. We saw him come on after halftime from West Brom. We had him on loan last season. He was someone that I thought was growing really into that role in that defensive mid. And we've got some questions still about Martin Piero. He wasn't even on the bench on the weekend. We had 2 goalkeepers on the bench, and when you got Martin Piero, who's just come back off loan, not even being able to make the bench, and we're playing. We got 2 goalkeepers sitting on the bench. It raises some eyebrows and some questions of, all right, well, where does Piero fit in if he can't even make the bench and we're playing 2 goalkeepers off the bench? So it's definitely going to be a big drastic end to the end of the deadline day for a few of us. I think obviously we've got Steve over there watching for Harry McGuire, and whether that happens, we've got Middlesbrough hoping to, the rumours are that we're getting 3 in, and obviously Sunderland, will they or won't they sign a striker? So it's going to be a bigger finish to the deadline day, and something we'll probably cover here on Northeast Breakfast Show is the big deadline day, and hopefully we can get some big news and some big signings in for each of the clubs.
Yeah, we've got
on Middlesbrough though, Rye. Sorry, Dave. I was just going to ask, Rye, do you anticipated losing Akpong, and do you think that's why you're in this position? Is because you didn't think that he was going to go, or? Yeah, I think
with all of them, to be honest with you, I think with all of them, we talk about the end of last season. Now, the players we had at our club worth 50 mil. You know what I mean? We had Chuba Akpom, Cameron Archer, Ryan Giles, Aaron Ramsey, all finding new clubs now in this transfer window. We've seen Aaron Ramsey go to Burnley, Chuba Akpom obviously off to Ajax, Cameron Archer's just shined for Sheffield United, and Ryan Giles obviously at Luton Town. We haven't gone out and replaced that directly, and we were focused on at least landing one of them. You know what I mean? And the reports are we were close to Gilo, we were close to maybe keeping Chuba, but to not have any one of them come back to the club in any sort of fashion is has left a few tears on the Boro fans, and whether the club found a replacement. Latte Lath, it seems like a good striker. I think he's going to be excellent, but you can't replace 50 mil worth of players overnight. No. And the thing for me, the positive thing for me is that we've now gone out and signed players on permanence. We've realised that the loans just aren't it. Loans players can come in and do a good job for the Borough, but when we're relying on loan players so heavily, and then they end up disappearing at the end of the season, it hurts, because then you expect you're that classic saying, don't fall in love with the loan players. But I think now what we've done with signing a lot of youngsters in this season, we've set ourselves up for no longer needing that rebuild at the end of each season. We know we can now start topping up around this, and I think Borough aren't as worse off as some people think, but I think we could do at least with 1 or 2 definitely on deadline day.
We've got a couple of messages coming in, and keep them coming on WhatsApp, 033 043 2002 if you want to be part of the show. Doesn't matter. Quick comment. You can tell us we're talking absolute rubbish if you want. We don't mind. Or just say up the Borough or up the Mags or whatever you want to do. 033 043 2002. Jamie's done that. He's a Borough fan. He says, I've seen some links with Lewis O'Brien recently. Would love to see that move get over the line. I think a more defensive option in midfield could be helpful given the recent defensive efforts. I suppose I've got to throw that one at Rye. I mean, O'Brien, he's at Forest, isn't he?
Yeah, I would love a Lewis O'Brien. He's at Nottingham Forest. And we've been linked with a few Nottingham Forest type players in our time, and to have someone come in, that is probably not going to get a game. Let's be honest, in the Prem for Nottingham Forest, the way they're spending and the way they're playing, I would definitely think we could take a Lewis O'Brien and have that defensive midfield cover. So, if that is someone that we could go over the line, I've seen rumours of that, but nothing seems to be concrete. And I think, and maybe you guys, if those that are on the text line, can comment about, because I think this has been one of the most quietest rumour mills I've ever seen leading up to a few days left in the deadline day. The rumours that usually float around right now, we've got Yannick Balassi, we've had all these wild rumours in the past transfer windows, normally with players that have been linked to the club and players that could come in on loan and everything, but we just don't. It's quiet as out there. There's nothing out there. So yeah, it scares me that it could be a quiet deadline day for us. But I pray that if we get 1 or 2, and if that is Lewis O'Brien, then I'm very happy.
Steve, is this a bigger transfer window, few days for Boro and Sunderland than it is for Newcastle?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we've more or less done our business, unless, there is a problem with Botman. I think yesterday we were talking about, the potential of Botman being out for a few weeks, but, the news that came out from Craig Hope at the Daily Mail yesterday was more positive, that the ankle injury wasn't as bad as first feared and that he should be okay. So maybe we won't find out until the press conference on Friday from Eddie Howe what the extent of the injury is, but one would believe that it's potentially just going to be, if he's going to miss a game, he might miss Brighton. We've then got the international break, and then we've got Brentford at home. So Newcastle not really too worried on that score. Obviously, the Jamal Lascelles story that we talked about at the top of the show is a concern. If Jamal Lascelles is going to be surplus to requirements because of off the field activities, and the Besiktas deal is comes to fruition, then we might see him go, and we might see McGuire come in. I think we're also keeping an eye on possible outs. Isaac Hayden, of course, has been on the payroll for quite a while. He's under contract at Newcastle until 2026, but he hasn't kicked a ball in anger for Newcastle since the 4-0 defeat at Man City in 2021. So from our perspective, he's gone now, and he goes with our best wishes. The 28-year-old was having a medical yesterday at Luton Town, so we will see Isaac Hayden in some shape or form at the moment. And I guess the only other person that we were looking to get off the wage bill, we of course had the long ongoing saga with Ryan Fraser, who's now gone to Southampton on loan, is Jeff Hendrick. And of course Jeff Hendrick came in at a time when Newcastle desperately needed him. Hasn't really had a career take off at St James's Park. We're just waiting to see whether there's anything that they can do with him again, because he's on such a big wage at Newcastle. Clubs were looking to take a gamble on him, so I guess we'll be waiting on transfer deadline to see whether he goes. But I think as far as Newcastle's concerned, it has been successful. At the start of the summer, we wanted to get rid of Ryan Fraser. We've ticked the box. We wanted to get rid of Isaac Hayden. We've ticked the box. We had to get Jamal Lewis out. We've ticked the box. So from my perspective, we've got those players off the wage bill. That's all going to help with financial fair play. And I think what we'll see on the 1st of September is, rather than a big signing coming in, we'll see the deal with Adidas announced, which of course will help Newcastle's financial fair play going into the January window.
Yeah, and we take the mick, and quite rightly, out of you in Newcastle because of the Saudi money, and we'll continue to do that. But give us an idea of the net spend on players. I mean, you must have recouped some money.
Yeah, we have, but because in the world of the Premier League, in the world of football, let's say, a lot of these deals are never announced in full. We don't know the exact amount of money that is crossed hands, but Newcastle have done their business and done their business well. Let's say that Newcastle, since the takeover, have spent in the region of £450 million. I would expect they must have recouped at least something in the region of 300 million. But that doesn't really work out as far as, as financial fair play is concerned. It's so confusing. We'd need to do a full show trying to explain the ins and outs of how it actually works. If you sell a player for 50 million, you can spend 150 million. Is that the way it works? That can be my understanding of it. It's bonkers. It doesn't make sense. And because of a team like Chelsea, who are making an absolute farce of financial fair play, and because of the governing bodies not handing out fines or points deductions for anyone who breaches it, nothing that's going to trouble anybody anyway, I think financial fair play is dead in the water, and I think we'll move on from that sooner rather than later. I think they brought it in really to stop the takeover from Saudi, not necessarily a Newcastle takeover, but any takeover from Saudi, because they knew that it would be a game changer, and they knew that it would affect the top 6 cartel. But I always enjoy transfer deadline day. The only thing I miss is Harry Redknapp looking out of his car window.
Yeah, good.
I mean, we look at the departures from Newcastle United, and we see we've got Saint Maxim, who's gone, Chris Wood, who's now obviously signed for Nottingham Forest permanently. You got rid of Carl Darlow, Ryan Fraser, Jamal Lewis, and then obviously some of these are obviously on loan, but they're obviously off the wage book now. And Geraint Cole, the Aussie as well, he's off on loan as well. So you have cleared out a fair bit. But then obviously the money coming in, we saw Tonali, obviously the massive signing from AC Milan, Harvey Barnes as well as a big signing for there as well, and Livramento from Southampton. So it does look like you've obviously been able to sort of, sell off a bit. And if it hasn't been a sell, it's been out on loan, and but it's crazy to me because you still don't see, even we talk about and we joke about the Saudi money for Newcastle. You don't see them like in the likes of Man City throwing the numbers there are around. Nunez now offering 60 mils, they reckon for Nunez from Wolves. Like, and I don't see
remember
Newcastle
the Man City
out there throwing that around.
Newcastle are 14 years behind the Man City project, though. That's the problem. They've been in there for best part of a decade and a half. So Newcastle have got a way to catch up. We've done good business. I'm happy with our transfer window. We've managed to get rid of some of the youngsters off the book. Jay Turner Cook's gone to St Johnstone. Mac Thompson's gone to Northampton. Kellen Watts has gone to Wigan. Matty Bonswell's gone to Newport. Cameron Ferguson's gone to Forfar. We brought in Yankuba Minte, who is like Garen Koala, somebody who I think a lot of fans will be excited about moving forward. He's gone to Feyenoord and is he's in the first team. He's doing really well. So yeah, we've done well. We have done well with the transfer window. Newcastle are cooking on gas in that area, and I think January we'll see more incomings. It's getting them all to play together. That's going to be Eddie Howe's job.
Right, before we go
one interesting one for me.
Go on, Ryan.
One interesting one. So I'll just quickly. One interesting one for me will be Matty Longstaff. Obviously young, 24-year-old midfielder. Matty Longstaff obviously made a free agent by Newcastle. I mean, he's a player out there at the moment that no club seems to have been invested in, and there's a few free agents out there as well that maybe the Boro or even Sunderland can look into. It surprises me that there's some players out there, even Kieran Clark as well. If Danny Bath does leave Sunderland over there, Macca. So
I don't think he will leave.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's still that sort of thing. So there's still a few free agents out there as well, which we seem to forget about even past deadline day. And we seem to be seeing more and more of these free agents that are good players that are, demanding good wage bills when they were back at their heyday. So,
Before we go on to the one game that's coming up tonight and we get our views on that, I think it's worth thanking Macca for being on this morning. Thanks, Macca.
Thank you, Macca.
You've added some good stuff there. And we'll be back tomorrow, of course. But Boro at Bolton, Rye, where's your money?
Listen, I'm going for a 2-0 win to the Boro. I don't think it's going to be anything flashy in terms of goals, but I think we're going to play a full-strength squad. I think we need some confidence in these boys. I don't think we're going to be seeing as many youngsters. I think we'll see Senny Dieng in the goalkeeper probably rested, and we'll see Tommy Glover or even Jamie Jones, the new goalkeeper signing, come in and for them. But I think other than that, we really are not going to be stretching too thin with the youngsters. I think with Michael Carrick's going to want to build some confidence and see a chance to get one up over a team in League One in Bolton. Obviously, it's going to be a tough test, don't get me wrong, and I think he'll be restricted in terms of playing some of those youngsters. And I think maybe we see some of those fringe players as well on further. We see it'll be answering the question of Martin Piero and stuff like that. But I want to see a full strength team from Carrick tonight. And I want to see a 2-0 win from Boro. And Riley McGree's going to score, I think. I believe in Riley McGree. And it's a 4:45 a.m. game for me, so I'm up early tomorrow to watch Bolton. But I'm excited. And obviously, if we can take anything from it, a win would be great. And a couple of goals as well for the club, just to boost that confidence going into the game before international break, because it's amazing what a win can do for you and for the fans. And they need it at the moment. And we all need it. We all need to see that there's goals in this team, that there's a clean sheet in this team, and that we can move forward. And, if we do win tonight, I honestly think it does also relax those fears of the deadline day, what ifs with that. So going for a 2-0 win, Steve.
Boro to win on penalties.
Woo! Go on, Macca, put a dampener on it.
No, I think Boro will win. I think Boro will win 2-1.
Cool, like it. I think they'll scrape it by a single goal, and I've got all their
single
outcomes.
Goal.
Yeah, I've got all their outcomes correct so far this season. Sadly, fellas, we're out of time. A bit of housekeeping to do before the news comes up at 9. Thank you, Macca. Thank you, Rye and Steve. We'll catch you tomorrow morning, same time.
See you tomorrow.
Look forward to it.
Been a pleasure, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Cheers,
Thanks,
fellas.